In fifth grade, today we're going to be learning Module 2, Lesson 17. So let's go ahead and get started. So yesterday you learned about mental strategies that you can use to divide certain numbers, and today all we're doing is estimating and then dividing those estimates. So today should actually be a really easy lesson because you're not actually going to be dividing these numbers. You're going to be rounding both of these factors and then dividing them. So this should be a lot easier than yesterday's lesson, hopefully. So let's go ahead and get started. Remember that you're actively listening and that you're following along, and then working on these problems on your desk or in a notebook. So our first problem is a follow along problem. So go ahead and start following along with me for number 1, which is 402 divided by 19. Put this up on the boards. 402 divided by 19. Now, like I said, normally I would write a standard algorithm that looks like that. But we're not doing this today, so I don't want to see any of this on your desk or in your problem sets. You're just doing an estimate. So the first step of estimating is to round. So I need to take my first factor, 402, and I need to round it. So I have 402. I'm going to round that to its largest place value, which is 400. And then I'm going to take a look at the next place value. It is a 0, so it's going to stay at that place value. It's going to round down to 400. So I'm going to have 400 divided by, now 19. I'm going to underline its largest place value. So that is 110. I look at the next place value, it is a 9. So this is going to round up. So 110 plus another 110 is 210. So it's rounding up to 210. So I do 400 divided by 20. Now this should be a problem you can do in your head pretty easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 4 divided by 2, which is 2. And then, like we learned yesterday, I can cancel out the zeros if I want. So I have 20, so that's one way to do it. Or I can solve this problem like 400 divided by 20. I could do 400 divided by 10 divided by 2. 400 divided by 10 is 40, and then 40 divided by 2 is 20. So there are 2 strategies to solve this problem. Let's try another one. So this problem, you're going to be trying it on your own and then fixing it. All I need to do is estimate. You do not need to do a standard algorithm for any of these problems. So the next problem is 149 divided by 71. All you need to do is round these 2 factors and then solve for that. So go ahead and pause the video right now and try this on your own. All right, now that we're back, 149, I'm going to underline this number right here. So this number, I could look at this and I could say, okay, this is probably going to round down to 100 and just 100. But then this would round to what? So I have 710, so that would round to 70 most likely. So I know that will just round to 70. And I kind of ran into a problem right here. Because if this rounds to 100, 100 divided by 70 is not really a problem that I can easily solve. But if I choose to round this number to a different place value, then I can easily divide these numbers. So what I'm going to do is, when you're estimating, you can look at smaller place values and round to those place values instead, so that you can get common factors. Because hopefully you're looking at this and you're like, I see a 14, and I know I can do 14 divided by 7. So I'm going to take a look at this number. So I have 149. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of break the rules, and I'm going to round this to 140, because 140 is something that is easily divisible by 70. So some of these estimates are going to be numbers that you have to break the rules for, but you're trying to find those factors. So if you know your factors, this is going to be not too bad. So let's get started with estimating now. We're actually doing the math. So I have 14 divided by 7, which is 2, and then I can go ahead and cancel out those zeros. I could also do 140 divided by 70, which would be 140 divided by 10 divided by 7. 140 divided by 10 is 14 divided by 7 then, bringing that down, and my answer is 2. Now you might be a little bit confused because you didn't see this way yesterday, but this is another way that you could solve these problems. I know a lot of us were a little bit confused with this, so if you want to cancel out the zeros, you can do that too. So for every many zeros are on this side, you can cross them out on that side. Let's move on to the next problem then. Again, you're going to write the next problem on your desk or on your notebook, pause this video, and then try it on your own. And if you need to break the rules of estimation, go ahead and break the rules so you can get those common factors. So my next factor, or my next set of factors, is 427 divided by 58. Now, for this one, I'm going to look at these. I'm going to think, do I see anything that looks like a factor? So when I look at this, I see that number 42. And the number 42 kind of stands out to me because I know that I could round that and divide this by 60, do 420 divided by 60. I could also round this to the number just 400, and I could break the rules and round that to 50. So you have a couple of options right now on how you want to solve this. So I'm going to do both because you might have done one of the other of these options. So I'm going to do 427, and since I'm going to round it to its largest place value, the 400s, I'm going to be rounding down because there's a 2 in this place value. So I'm going to round this to 400s, and then I'm going to round this 58 to 50, just because if I rounded it to 60, would I be able to do 4 divided by 6? Or 40 divided by 6? I wouldn't be able to do any of those things. So if you're ever estimating and you get numbers that don't really let you divide, or you can't go like this and divide or anything like that, then you need to rethink your answer because whatever estimates you got don't make sense. So it's a little bit of guess and check sometimes, but you'll get used to it. So 40 divided by 5 is 8. And then I can cancel out the zeros. Or sorry, 400 divided by 50 would then be 8. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like on this side. So I have 400 divided by 10 divided by 5. 400 divided by 10 is 40 divided by 5, which is 8. And there we go. You have your final answer for both sides. Like I said, I know it's a little bit confusing because you kind of have to break the rules in either situation. And it gets a little bit confusing, but you can get used to it. I can also show you, we could also do 420 divided by 60, because I can do 42 divided by 6, which is 7, and then cancel out my 0. And then I give a 7, and then this 7, even though it doesn't match this 8 from earlier, they're still close enough to each other. And this estimate is actually a little bit more exact because the farther down the place values you go, the closer you get to the actual answer. So since I went to the 10th place and I rounded that 10th place to get 420 and I rounded up to 60 in this situation, my estimate's a little bit closer to what the actual number is going to be. Now let's take a look at the next problem, which is 293 divided by 42. So we have 293 divided by 42. Now again, this problem might look kind of confusing because you have to think about where could I possibly round these numbers? What are my factors? So when I look at this, I think, okay, I could round 293 up to 300. So I can round that up to 300 just by rounding this 2 up into the next hundreds place because there's that 9 there. Then this 42, I could kind of break the rules and I could round that up to 50. So I have 300 divided by 50. And now I can go ahead and solve. So I'm going to show you the 2 ways I've been showing you. So I could do 30 divided by 5. And it's okay in situations like this to take all of that. So like if you have just a 3 here, you don't have to do 3 divided by 5. You can underline one of these zeros and do 30 divided by 5 so you can get your correct answer. So I have 30 divided by 5, which is 6. And then I'll cancel out those zeros and I get my final estimate of 6. Now I can look at this and see if there's any other ways that I could round it. But I could round this down to 28. So I get 280 divided by 40. I could also do that, and I'll show you the way that we learned yesterday to solve division problems. The reason why I picked 28 and 4 is because 28 divided by 4 is 7, or 4 times 7 is 28. So that's another factor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write 280 divided by 10 divided by 4. So 280 divided by 10 is 28, and 28 divided by 4 is 7. Again, my estimates will get closer or farther, but they should be pretty close to each other. There's only one off. So you might get a different estimate from the person next to you, and that is fine. You just want to make sure that when you are rounding that you're doing the math correctly. Because you can break the rules and round wrong. Like you can do that. It's like how I did here, where 42 shouldn't round up to 50, but I let it happen anyway. So you can break the rules, but as long as you're doing this math correctly, because that's going to be the important part. All right, I know this lesson might be a little bit confusing, but we have one more problem to go, and then you'll be doing the problem set, which is basically just all estimating. So let's take a look at 751 divided by 93. So 751 divided by 93. And when I look at this problem, I start thinking of what options do I have. So the first option that I see, and it's okay if you didn't see this one either, is I could round this to I could round this whole number up to 800. Because I can round it to its largest place value, round up because there's a 5, I can round it up to 800. And I can break the rules and round this up to 100. I know 93 doesn't normally round up to 100, but for estimating, I'm just going to let it happen anyways. So 800 divided by 100, 8 divided by 1 was 8, and then I can cancel out some of my zeros. I go like that. I get an answer of 8. Or I could also move my decimal place over 2 times because there's 2 zeros, and I get an answer of 8. So you have that strategy. Another way I could solve this is I can think of my factors of 9. So I can think maybe I could round this to 72, because that would be my closest factor of 9. So maybe I'll round this to 7,000 or 720. Obviously, 751 does not really round to 720, but I'm going to break the rules to help me solve this problem. So I have 720 divided by, I'm going to round this to just 90, because then I can do 72 divided by 9, and then 72 divided by 9 would be 8. I could cross out those zeros, and that would be my final answer. Again, I got that same estimate, just a little bit, maybe a little bit more difficult. I could also do it this way, 720 divided by 10 divided by 9. So 720 divided by 10, sorry, my head's going. 720 divided by 10 would be 72, and 72 divided by 9 is 8. So you have a couple different ways of solving this problem. So it's really up to you today for your problem set, how you want to solve these problems. I know they're a little bit confusing because if you don't know your factors, these might be difficult, but I will be letting you pair up today to work on your problem sets as long as you are paying attention and you're working with your partner. So let me grab my book real quick and I'm going to get to your problem sets. For today's problem set, 5th grade, you are going to be doing problems 1B through I. So just 1B through I. And your page is going to look something like this. So it's just going to be a bunch of boxes, and all you need to do is round the two factors to numbers that will work for you, that you can easily divide, and then you'll solve for that problem. That's all you have to do today for the problem set. Your homework for tonight will then also be B through I on the homework set page for lesson 17. Remember, if you have any questions, please raise your hand. You can use your multiplication charts. You can study your facts as well, and then get started on the problem sets. Good luck and have a good day.